She had been crying for 40 minutes. Her parents had tried everything. The dog had tried nothing except stay. Isla Pemberton was 22 months old and crying, the way some toddlers do in late October, without a clear cause, without a ceiling, without any sign of winding down. Her mother, Renata, a registered dietitian with 2 children and a clinical mind, had checked the usual list. No fever, no visible injury, ate normally at lunch. Nap had been fine. Renata could not find a reason, which was its own kind of alarm. Bear was a 5-year-old golden retriever who had never once in 5 years shown anything that looked like the behavior he was now showing. He was a dog people described as dopey with affection. He leaned into everyone he nudged strangers' hands. He was not, in any observable way, a complicated animal, which made what he was doing at 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday genuinely frightening. He had come to Isla when the crying started. That part was normal. He always came. What was not normal was the position he had taken. He was pressing his muzzle toward her face with a focus that Renata had no category for. Not licking. Not nuzzling. His nose was inches from Isla's open crying mouth, and he was holding it there, and the expression on his face was something Renata recognized as attention, but could not fit into any dog behavior she had ever witnessed. She said his name. He didn't look up. She put her hand on his collar. He moved around her hand. Her husband, Colin, came in from the garage. He saw it from the doorway, the dog's face hovering at his daughter's mouth, while their daughter screamed and said, "Get him away from her." Renata tried. Bear was gentle but immovable, which was its own kind of terrifying, because a dog who is gentle and immovable around a screaming child is a dog you cannot read. And a dog you cannot read is a dog who has become dangerous in some new way you don't have language for yet. They put him in the laundry room. He scratched at the door without stopping, rhythmic, focused, the sound of an animal with a reason. Isla cried for another 20 minutes. Then she went quiet in a way that felt different from the quiet that follows a tantrum. Renata picked her up and Isla's head dropped against her shoulder without the usual resistance. Her body was wrong. Not dramatically. Renata did not have a dramatic word for it, but wrong. She told Colin to call the pediatrician. By the time the nurse called back, Renata was already pulling on her shoes. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. At the urgent care clinic, Isla's blood glucose registered 36 milligrams per deciliter. Normal floor for a child her age is 70. The physician on duty, Dr. Callum Ferreira, pediatric emergency 8 years, said she was sliding into a hypoglycemic crisis. Post-viral, which is common after illness, the body depletes glycogen stores and doesn't signal it the way adults do. No dramatic symptoms until the window is very close. He looked at Renata. "What made you bring her in?" Renata said, "The dog." He nodded once, as if this was not the first time he had heard exactly this. "Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard." Later, she read about isoprene, the volatile compound the body produces when blood glucose drops, detectable in exhaled breath, odorless to humans, registered by a dog's nose at concentrations thousands of times below any human threshold. Bear had been reading the chemical change in Isla's breath since the moment the crying started. He had come to the source and pressed his nose toward it because that is what a detecting animal does when it has found the thing it is looking for. The 40 minutes of crying had not been a tantrum. It was Isla's body doing the only thing available to a 22-month-old in a blood sugar crisis, making noise. Bear had known that. He had stayed at the source of the signal, while Renata looked for reasons, and Colin called it dangerous, and everyone in the house reached the wrong conclusion together. Renata went home and opened the laundry room door. Bear came out without drama, walked past both of them, went to Isla on the couch, and lowered his face once toward her. He inhaled. Then he lay down beside her and put his chin on the cushion and stayed. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Isla is 2.5 now. Her glucose levels are managed and stable. Bear still comes every time she cries. Renata doesn't move him anymore. She has learned to watch where his nose points.